Have you ever had that feeling that everything is going wrong, even when you try to get it right, as if your life is stuck in time, waiting for something that never comes? Maybe you look around and see people thriving, fulfilling dreams, while you carry the weight of frustrations, postponed promises, and lonely battles that no one understands. I know how much it hurts. It's like walking through a desert, hoping to find an oasis that always seems to slip away. But what if I told you that this time of waiting is about to end, that tonight is no ordinary night, that there is a spiritual movement happening and it has your name written all over it? That is no exaggeration. It is no coincidence that you are here reading this right now. This is an answer. This is direction. This is God's whisper saying, get ready. Today is the day everything begins to change. In this video, you will understand why nothing you experienced was in vain, why you were chosen, and as your transformation spiritual can start right now, regardless of what you see around you. Let's talk about faith that moves, perseverance that supports, prayer that connects, and how God acts unexpectedly to deliver blessings that surpass any logic. This is not self-help talk. It is guidance from someone who knows the path. And I will guide you step by step so that you discover the real purpose of your journey. Believe me, riches, miracles, and a new story are being released about your life. But there is a secret, and it will be revealed here. Before we continue, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. Activate the bell so you don't miss any words, and share this video with the one you love. There is someone who needs to hear this as much as you do. And now, I want to propose a challenge. Write in the comments, with courage and faith, the phrase that will seal the beginning of this change in your life. Today, I surrender myself to God's plan. I am ready to be transformed. Are we going together? Because the sky is moving, and you are part of it. You know that feeling of being out of place, as if your life were a jigsaw puzzle with pieces that don't fit together? Many people live like this, thinking they were born by chance, that they are just another number in the crowd. But let me tell you a powerful truth. You are not here by accident. Every detail of your existence carries a purpose. You were chosen by God. Chosen. Not because you were lucky, not because you did everything right or have all the answers, but because God saw something in you that you yourself may not yet see. He saw you in the silence of the early mornings, in the hidden tears, in the whispered prayers. He saw you when you thought about giving up, but you got up anyway. He saw you when the world called you weak, but you kept going. That's what moves heaven, a willing heart, even if it's broken. Being chosen does not mean an easy life, but rather a life with purpose. It is not about having everything figured out, but about being an instrument of something greater. When God chooses someone, He does not look at their resume, but at their disposition. He is not impressed by diplomas or achievements. What matters to Him is a heart that says, "Here I am." And if you have come this far, it is because in some way your heart has already responded to this calling, even without realizing it. It may seem bold to think this way, especially if you look back on your life and only see failures, closed doors, or past mistakes. But pay attention. God doesn't choose the perfect. He empowers those He chooses. The Bible is full of ordinary people who were raised to extraordinary things. Moses stuttered. David was the youngest and forgetful. Peter was impulsive. But they were all called, and they all made history. Being chosen means understanding that your life carries a message. That what you have experienced, the good and the bad, will serve to heal others. It will serve to inspire, lift, and guide. What you have been through was not in vain. It was preparation, it was construction, it was the foundation for the mission that God is entrusting you with. And perhaps you are right at the turning point, that moment when everything seems confusing, but in heaven it is already defined. The time for transformation has come. This choice is personal. It is not inherited, it is not imposed. It is an invitation to delivery, discovering the true purpose. And when you accept this invitation, something changes. You start to walk with more trust, looking to the future with hope, because he understands that he does not walk alone. God acts in every detail, even in that which seems disorganized, and he continues to whisper, "I have chosen you." Now, what are you going to do with this choice? Are you going to run away? Are you going to pretend you didn't hear? Or are you going to take a stand and say, "If the Lord has chosen me, then I'm ready"? That's your answer. But one thing is certain. When you say yes, heaven begins to move, and what seemed impossible begins to take shape. Because when God chooses, he also prepares, sustains, and fulfills each promise. Have you ever stopped to think about how many times you thought something just happened? That unexpected conversation that changed your direction, that delay that saved you from an accident, that pain that pushed you down a new path? Life seems full of coincidences, but let me tell you, with God, nothing is a coincidence. Everything has a reason, even when it doesn't seem to make sense at the time. You are not a work of chance. Your existence is part of a divine plan, a plan full of purpose, direction, and meaning. The truth is that God does not write random stories. He draws journeys with precision, even if the lines seem confusing to us. Every detail, the neighborhood where you were born, the parents you had, the mistakes you made, the dreams that seemed dormant, all of this is raw material for a greater plan. Some people live as if they were thrown into the world, trying to find meaning where they see no form. But those who have spiritual understanding realize what seems disorder to our eyes is often divine alignment. And here's a point that might move you. Maybe you're facing exactly what you need to face in order to be prepared. That struggle you hate, that closed door that seems unfair, that frustration that insists on coming back. All of them are forging in you the structure needed to sustain what God wants to deliver. Because God doesn't pour out blessings on unprepared ground. It builds character before releasing destiny. When you understand that you have a called, everything starts to change. You stop competing with others because you realize that no one can steal your place. You stop comparing yourself because your time is unique, and you start to walk with more trust because you know that even in silence, God is working behind the scenes. This brings peace, even in chaos. Because no matter how strong the wind is, the boat of your life has direction. But here's the important detail. Purpose is not revealed all at once. It is built in perseverance daily, in small decisions, in the steps of faith. It's like putting together a puzzle. You only see the complete picture after putting several pieces in place. And yes, there will be pieces that you think don't fit, that seem broken. But when everything aligns, you realize that nothing was in vain. So if today you feel lost, not knowing where to start again, remember this. You were called to live something greater, bigger than your traumas, bigger than your past, bigger than your own plans. There is a spiritual wealth being prepared, which goes beyond any material achievement. A life with purpose is a life that impacts other lives, and that is what God wants to do with you. To use your story as a bridge to transformation. It's not about perfection, nor is it about religiosity. It's about delivery. To say, "Lord, even without understanding everything, I trust that my life is in your hands." Because those who live with purpose do not need to have all the answers. They just need to have hope that with God, every step has meaning. And do you know what's most powerful about all this? When you start living this purpose, other people are healed just by being around you. Your journey becomes a living testimony that yes, God does act, and that everything that seemed random was in fact part of a well-planned plan. Everyone has a moment when they feel the need to change. It could be during a silent night, during a church service where the words hit home, or even at that moment when your tired soul whispers, "I can't go on like this anymore." And if that moment has come for you, let me tell you clearly and lovingly, your spiritual transformation begins today. But don't think that transformation is magic or a spectacle. It's much more of a silent process than a burst of fireworks. It's waking up one day and realizing that you no longer carry the same burdens, no longer react the same, no longer think the same way. The real transformation, it happens from the inside out, and it doesn't start when everything is perfect. It starts when you, even when you're in a mess, decide to give God space to do what only He knows how to do. The turning point is always a decision. Don't wait until everything is in order to seek change. Start as you are. God doesn't expect you to come clean. He wants you to come sincere. He is an expert in transforming chaos into purpose, wounds into strength, broken stories into powerful testimonies, but He is waiting for your yes. And that yes can be given today, right now, right where you are. Maybe you feel too small for something big. Maybe you've been told your whole life that you're not capable. But let me remind you, God doesn't choose the capable. He enables the chosen. And if you're reading this, it's no coincidence. You're called spiritual transformation. It begins when we stop trying to control everything and simply say, Lord, take the helm. It is delivery. It is trusting even without seeing. This process, yes, involves perseverance. There will be days when you will feel at the top, full of faith, ready to change the world. And there will be days when all you will be able to say is, help me, God. And that's okay. God is not impressed by your performance. He connects with your true. The important thing is not to stop. It is to continue even on cloudy days, because that is when the root of faith deepens. And look, this is not a lonely path. Around the world, thousands of people are exactly at this same point, tired of the superficial, thirsty for spirituality, live transformative, real. The good news? God is available. No ritual, no specific place, no difficult words are necessary. All it takes is you with an open heart saying, do it in me. Want a practical tip? Start your day with a prayer, simple, sincere. Read a passage from the Bible. Start with the Psalms, for example. Write down what touches your heart. Look for a community of faith where you can walk together. And if possible, talk to someone you trust about what you're going through. This is planting seeds of change. Remember, transformation is not about becoming someone else. It's about revealing who you already are in God. It's about unlocking gifts, healing old wounds, and reclaiming what seemed lost. God doesn't just want you to get better, He wants you to blossom. And that starts when you stop running away and start reaching out. Today could be the first day of a new phase, a phase of more peace, more meaning, more alignment with heaven. You don't need to wait for the right moment. The moment is now, because when you move toward God, He runs toward you, and then the impossible becomes a detail. If there is one word that carries more power than it seems, it is this one: faith. Short, simple, but capable of moving mountains. And it's not just a pretty metaphor, no. Anyone who has crossed a dark valley with a heart full of confidence knows what I'm talking about. Faith is what makes you stand up when everything tells you to stay down. It's the conviction that sustains you when your eyes see no way out, but your spirit knows that something greater is happening. Faith truly is the key that opens the door to miracles. But this key is not handed to you on a silver platter. It is constructed, often in the midst of loss, pain, and seemingly unanswered prayers. Because faith is not an emotion, it is a choice. It is looking at the impossible and saying, it will happen because God promised it. It is keeping on walking even when the ground seems to sink. And let me tell you, whoever decides to live like this lives in the supernatural. Maybe you are waiting for a sign from heaven, something grand, an audible voice telling you what to do. But faith begins in the small, in that decision not to give up today, in the courage to start over, in the prayer said with tears, but full of hope. Faith is action, it is practice, it is attitude. It is not about feeling, it is about believing, even when the feeling says otherwise. Let's be honest, it's easy to have faith when everything is going well. When your salary is regular, your health is stable, your family is at peace. But what about when everything seems to be falling apart? When the bills are due, the diagnoses are scary, and your heart is squeezed with anxiety? That's when true faith reveals itself. It's at that point that you see if you're just repeating nice phrases, or if you really believe that God acts even in chaos. And get this, miracles are not random events. They are divine responses to believing hearts. The Bible is full of stories like this. Blind people who saw again, lame people who walked, dead people who lived again. But they all had one thing in common: faith. And not perfect faith, but faith that was brave enough to try, to reach out, to believe that if I just touch his garment, I will be healed. This goes for you. The area of your life that feels stuck, sterile, blocked. It could be the stage for your next miracle, but it will require a stand. It will require you to stop listening to doubt and start declaring trust. May you feed on the word. May you surround yourself with those who bring you closer to God. May you choose to believe, even when you tremble. Want an exercise? Start making promises over your life every day. Take verses like "All things are possible to him who believes," and say them out loud. This is not mysticism. It is aligning your mind with the truth. Because the world will scream otherwise, but you are called to live by faith, not by sight. It's not about empty positivity. It's about anchoring yourself to something solid when everything else is shaky. Faith doesn't pull you out of storms. It sustains you through them, and it takes you to the place where miracle happens, the encounter between the human impossible and the supernatural power of God. So, if there's something you need to see happen, start from within. Nourish your faith like you would water a seed, and wait, because God never fails. And when he finds a heart full of faith, he can transform any scenario, even those that seemed sealed by failure. Imagine someone receiving a precious, rare, priceless gift, but with dirty hands, without care, without preparation. It seems absurd, right? But that's exactly how many people live, waiting blessings giants without preparing spiritually to receive them. The truth is that God, in his infinite wisdom, does not release that which can crush us. He only delivers it when he knows we have the structure to carry it. Therefore, spiritual preparation, it's not luxury, it's basic. Many people want prosperity. He wants miracles, wants to be used by God, but forget that the first step is not to run, it is to clear the ground. How can you plant something new in a land full of emotional garbage, unresolved hurts, and unbroken pride? It is not possible. God works with fertile soil, and that soil is your heart. If it is hardened, full of resentments, dominated by old wounds, no matter how many times you pray, growth will be limited. Spiritual preparation requires courage. Courage to face your shadows, your traumas, your areas that you sweep under the rug. It's time to forgiveness, even for those who don't deserve it, because the one who frees himself the most is you. It's time to prayer, not the memorized one, but the one that comes from within, between tears, in traffic, in the shower, with simple and sincere words. It's time to relinquishment of control, to stop saying my way and start saying thy will be done. And here comes a point that many people skip: spiritual discipline. Yes, it is beautiful to feel God, to cry in his presence, to be moved in praise. But true growth happens behind the scenes. It is when you wake up and choose to pray even if you don't feel like it. When you open the Bible even if your mind is tired. When you decide to fast, serve, seek. Not because you feel like it, but because you know you need it. This is perseverance, is commitment, and God honors this type of attitude. Want a practical example? Start by setting aside 10 minutes of your day to be with God. Just you and him. Speak, listen, write down what you feel. You can use a devotional. Daily Bread, Springs in the Desert, or even apps like YouVersion create the habit, because spirituality is cultivated, not improvised, and the closer you get, the clearer it becomes what needs to change in you. Don't wait for the heavens to open before you start preparing. Start on the ground of reality, where your daily struggles are, because that's where God works the most. He's not looking for perfection, He's looking for willingness. And a willing heart, even if flawed, is enough for Him to begin a complete work. Another important point is wisdom, knowing how to discern the time, the season, what should be done now and what should wait. And this can only be achieved through intimacy with God. He doesn't just want to bless you, He wants you to know what to do with the blessing. Because have you ever thought about receiving something enormous without preparation? It can become a burden. But when you are ready, what comes becomes light, fruitful, and transformative. So, if there is something you have been waiting for a long time and it has not yet arrived, maybe it is not because God said no, but because He is still waiting for your yes to prepare the environment, your mind, your heart, your routine. And this begins with small steps of obedience, with attitudes that no one sees, but that change everything. God works in prepared environments. And today could be the day you begin this inner reform. It's not about deserving, it's about responding. And if you respond sincerely, He will act profoundly. We live in a generation that measures success by what can be counted: followers, salaries, likes, square meters. Not that this is wrong. Working, achieving, prospering, all of this has its value. But let me ask you a direct question. What happens when money doesn't solve anything? What about when you have a house, a car, and status, but you still feel an emptiness that won't go away? That's where a truth comes in that many people only discover too late. Spiritual riches are what truly sustain a full life. The unbridled search for having without considering being is a trap. God is not against it. Prosperity material. In fact, He owns the gold and silver. But He doesn't want to give you something that will steal your soul in the process. He wants to see you rich in peace, of wisdom, of love, on purpose. He wants you to have enough to live with dignity, yes, but much more than that. He wants you to live with meaning. There are people who have everything on the outside, but are broken on the inside. They sleep on feather pillows, but cry in silence. And do you know why? Because they never learned to balance what is eternal with what is fleeting. They never invested time in developing their spirit. They never cultivated the spirituality as a priority. Result, they are always chasing the wind. The real one spiritual wealth does not appear on your bank statement, but in the fruits you generate. It is that serenity in the midst of the storm. It is the faith that resists even when everything falls apart. Is the ability to forgive, to get up again, to inspire someone just with the way you live. That is true prosperity, the kind that no one can steal, that the crisis does not consume, that time does not corrode. Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." Notice the order. First the kingdom, first the inner self, first alignment with heaven, then the rest comes. But there are people who do it the other way around. They seek the rest and leave the essential for later. Then the result is a life full of achievements, but without essence. And this has a lot to do with trust. When you trust that God takes care of you, you stop running after everything as if it all depended on you. You work, dream, plant, but in peace, because you understand that what comes from Him does not overwhelm you. It sustains you, and that sometimes He holds you back a little so that you don't lose focus. Want some direct advice? Start investing in the invisible. Read the Bible more than your bank account. Talk to God more than you talk to your fears. Celebrate what's in your heart more than what's on your bookshelf. That's not alienation, that's spiritual intelligence. And that intelligence is what will keep you steady when everything visible shakes. So, if today you feel like you are missing something, even though you have everything, maybe what is missing is not something, but someone. Maybe it is time to seek more of what fills the soul, to put God back at the center, because when the center is Him, everything around falls into place, and what is material finds its true place, a tool, not a throne. It's funny how sometimes the sky seems quieter just when we need to hear something the most. You pray, you wait, you move, but it seems like nothing changes. Worse, everything gets worse. But what few people realize is that this seemingly chaotic scenario could be exactly the sign that blessing is knocking at the door. Yes, that's right. Turmoil often precedes victory. Chaos before order, the desert before the promised land. Think about it. Before birth comes the pain of childbirth. Before resurrection comes the cross. Before peace comes internal war. God has a very particular way of working, and many times He allows the environment to darken so that the light of transformation shine brighter. So if everything is getting harder, if the doors seem locked and your soul is tired, don't be discouraged. Maybe you are closer to the miracle than you think. One of the most common signs that something is coming is discomfort. That restlessness that comes without explanation, the feeling that you need to move, change, grow. This is not anxiety. It is the Spirit sensing that something is moving, and that something is God at work. He is moving the gears, aligning details, preparing people and opportunities, and all of this requires your trust. Another sign is increased resistance. It seems contradictory, right? But when the enemy realizes that something big is going to happen, he intensifies his attacks. The arrows come with more force, doubt whispers more insistently, circumstances become more challenging. This is not bad luck. It is confirmation. It is the spiritual responding to divine movement. It is as if hell knows before you that heaven has already decreed something new for your life. And what's more, there are times when, in the midst of all this pressure, you begin to experience a peace that has no explanation. Everything continues to be difficult, but inside, something sustains you. This peace is a sign of spiritual maturity. It is the Holy Spirit saying, "Calm down, I'm here." It is the internal preparation to receive what you have been waiting for. Because the blessing that comes from God requires emotional structure, and He takes care of this before delivering it. Want a biblical example? Joseph went through rejection, slander, and imprisonment, but heaven was never silent. God was preparing everything. When the time came, everything changed in one day. And Joseph understood. The chaos he had experienced was, in fact, the path to fulfilling the purpose that awaited him. And in your life, it is no different. If you have been facing deep crises, relationships being shaken, doors closing inexplicably, or even an unexpected change of direction, this may be a sign that promise is being fulfilled. Don't run away from these moments. Face them with faith, because they are proof that you are being shaped for something greater. Another important thing, be aware of opportunities that come out of nowhere. Invitations, connections, ideas. God uses people and situations to release the new. But to notice it, you need to be sensitive. And this sensitivity comes from prayer, of intimacy with the Father. It is this that refines your discernment and prevents you from sabotaging your own blessing out of fear or haste. So, if everything seems out of place, be thankful, because God is organizing things behind the scenes. If heaven is silent, believe me, it is because His pen is writing, and if the path has become narrower, it is because you are closer to your destination. There is a part of the process with God that is perhaps the most difficult for many people. Give up control. We like to know what comes next, to guarantee results, to chart safe routes. But with God, the map doesn't always come before the journey. He calls you to walk, and only then shows you the way. And that's where the greatest challenge of spiritual life comes in: total surrender. Truly surrendering yourself to God is more than just saying pretty prayers. It's saying yes, even when you don't understand. It's continuing even when it hurts. It's trusting that He is working, even when everything seems to be at a standstill. Trust, it is not tested when everything is going well. It is in chaos that it shows its strength, and surrender is only genuine when you give up your will to embrace His. And let's be honest, this is scary, because we like to have the steering wheel in our hands. We like the illusion that we have control over everything. But the truth is that most of life happens outside of our control, and fighting against it only creates anxiety, fatigue, and frustration. Peace comes when you let go, when you say, "Lord, I don't understand, but I trust. Guide me." This surrender is not a one-time act. It is a daily choice. Every day you will have to decide between reacting your way or trusting God's way, between resolving things with your own strength or waiting with your own strength, faith. And this struggle sometimes is internal. The heart wants to believe, but the mind screams doubts, and that's okay. God is not afraid of your conflicts. He just hopes that, even amidst questioning, you will still choose Him. You know, that relationship that doesn't flow, the door that doesn't open, the answer that doesn't come. It could be that God is just waiting for you to let go, because while you insist on controlling, He respects. He doesn't impose. He waits for your "do as you wish, Father." It is in this place of surrender that transformation it happens. Want a practical example? Remember Abraham? God asked for the son he had waited for years. A request completely without human logic. But Abraham went up the mountain. He took the boy. He loved God so much that he trusted in God more, promise than in possession. And when he raised his hand, God said, "Now I know that you fear me." And he gave not only his son back, but also an eternal lineage. That's the power of surrender. And it is in this place that you find something that the world cannot offer: peace true. Because when God is in control, the heart rests. Not because everything is resolved, but because you know that everything is in the right hands. Hope is reborn. Fear diminishes. The soul breathes. But be careful. Surrender is not abandonment. It is not passivity. It is acting with obedience, not with anxiety. It is working, dreaming, planning, but knowing that in the end, He is the one in charge. It is doing your part, but leaving the result to heaven. And that changes everything. It changes how you deal with failures, how you interpret delays, how you position yourself when faced with noise. If you feel like you're losing control of everything, maybe this is God's invitation. Let me take care of it. And when He takes care of it, Heblis, He prospers. It leads you down paths you never imagined. What seemed like an end turns out to be a beginning. What seemed like a loss turns into a deliverance. Today, you have that choice. You can keep trying to do things your way, or you can choose to rest in God's way. Surrender is not weakness. It's the ultimate act of spiritual courage. And believe me, when you do, heaven moves in a mighty way. Many people think that praying is a religious act, a routine that must follow rules, postures, and correct words. But the truth is that prayer, it is not a ritual. It is a relationship. It is a conversation. It is the most direct channel between you and God. It does not need a perfect setting nor sophisticated phrases. It needs sincerity, a naked soul, a willing heart. Because a powerful prayer, it is not measured by the volume of the voice, but by the depth of delivery. There are days when all you can say is, "God, help me," and that's enough. He understands what's not said. He listens to the silences. He translates the tears. The Father is not looking for a memorized vocabulary, but for a heart that calls out to Him. And when you call out, He answers. Even if the answer doesn't come in the time or form you expect, you can be sure God acts. Prayer transforms. It transforms your environment. It transforms you, not because it magically changes your circumstances, but because it changes the way you face them. When you pray, your vision aligns with the sky. Your feet remain on the ground, but your mind rises. You begin to see things the way God sees them, and that changes everything. Want an example? Start your day by praying, even before touching your cell phone. You can do it with your eyes closed or while you're taking a shower. Talk to God like you would talk to a friend. Be thankful for what you have. Ask for strength to face what's coming. Give up your day. This adjusts your focus, tunes your spirit, and prepares the ground to receive whatever you need: wisdom, direction, comfort, or courage. And make no mistake, prayers move the invisible. How many times have you seen something change without explanation? A door open without logic, a situation resolved unexpectedly. You can bet there was prayer involved, and sometimes it wasn't even your prayer. Someone interceded for you. Because prayer connects you not only with God, but also with other people. It is a network of faith that sustains you when your strength runs out. But be careful, prayer is not a tool for exchange. It is not, I ask, God gives me. It is more than that. It is a moment where you can listen to. Yes, God speaks. Through the word, through thoughts, through sudden peace, through sensations that only those who are intimate with Him understand. And the more you pray, the more you learn to discern His voice amidst the noise of life. Want to deepen this connection? Try keeping a prayer notebook. Write down requests, thanks, promises. Track the answers. This strengthens your faith, shows how faithful God has been, even when you forget. And when you look back, you will see that many of the things you asked for were answered. Some, thank God, even with a no that saved you from something worse. Prayer is also combat. It is where you fight the greatest spiritual battles, where you protect your home, your mind, your journey. Don't wait for the problem to arrive to pray. Pray beforehand. Pray as a preventative measure, not just as a remedy. Because praying is like breathing. If you stop, you weaken. But if you keep the flow, your spirituality remains alive, active, pulsating. In the end, prayer is an act of love. Those who love communicate. And God longs for this time with you. He doesn't need your prayer to act, but He wants to use it to transform you. Because deep down, the greatest miracle that prayer works is in the one who prays. After reading everything you've read, the question remains, are you ready to experience the change you've been waiting for? Because the truth is that God has already prepared the way, but it's up to you to decide to walk it. Everything discussed here isn't just distant theory. It's practical, real, accessible guidance. And the best part, it's all within your reach. You may be wondering where to start. Start small, but start. Choose a time in your day to pray, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Take your Bible, read a psalm, reflect, observe your thoughts, your reactions. Decide to forgive, practice silence. Talk to God as you would talk to a father, because He listens. And more than listening, He responds. Now stop for a moment and reflect. Where do you need to release forgiveness? In which area do you need to hand over control? What promises have you forgotten to nurture with faith? What changes do you already know you need to make? These questions are not meant to pressure you, but to activate you. Because faith without practice is just theory, and your calling is to live the fullness of what God has designed for you. If this content spoke to you, subscribe to the channel right now, turn on notifications, and share with someone who needs to hear these words. It might be exactly what they've been waiting for. And tell me in the comments, what was the point that touched you the most? Let's walk together with purpose, faith, and willingness for transformation.